Welcome to the Rational Egoist. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz. Right now in the United States, I think it's pretty clear that we have a deficit in leadership at the very top. I'd say probably we have deficits in leadership in our major institutions, from media to corporations, and probably everywhere in between. So I figured I'd get somebody to come on here and talk about leadership. And today we have a professor at the University of Miami. He researches identity, immigration, and acculturation. He is the author of The Savvy Academic, publishing in the social and health sciences. Seth J. Schwartz, PhD. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Broadly speaking, what is leadership?
Well, that's a great question. I think that leadership is what I say to my class is that leadership is essentially getting people to do what you want them to do.
Okay, so you mentioned your class. So you would be, I guess, the leader of the class. If you're trying to get the
Yes.
class to pay attention, to
Mm-hmm.
do their schoolwork, et
Right.
cetera, you'd be
Right.
the
To
leader of the
show up.
class.
Yeah.
So I read where you wrote that a group takes on the personality of its leader.
Yes.
What does that mean?
What it means is, and here I'm going to draw on the work of Alex Haslam from the UK and Naomi Ellemers, who's in the Netherlands. Um, they have looked at leadership from a group viewpoint. And what they've said essentially is that an effective leader exemplifies the group. An effective leader is one of us. Um, and so you can only lead people if you can see yourself in them and they can see themselves in you. And so if the group really buys in, they're going to adopt a lot of your styles and your traits because they're going to see you as being one of them. Now, I will also say that even if you're not a good leader, the group will sense that and they will sort of also adopt the lack of organization and lack of I guess I would say flow and logic that you have as a leader. So what people see in you is what they're essentially going to do.
So a good leader wouldn't be an elitist who puts
No,
himself above and separate from the group.
nope.
And it's important that a leader not be a hypocrite. That if he wants people to
Mm-hmm.
do things, he has to do them as well. He has to be a
Exactly.
hard worker, like you have behind you, the family rules. Always be
Mm-hmm.
kind, encourage each other, be proud of yourself. If you don't do those things, then the rest
Right.
of the family is unlikely to follow suit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
discuss the self-determination theory of leadership. I believe it is the theory of the two people you mentioned. I might be misremembering. If I am,
Yes.
that's fine.
Yes.
But what is the self-determination theory of leadership?
Okay. So essentially, Ed DC and Rich Ryan from the University of Rochester, they actually developed this theory back in the 80s. And what they said essentially is that there are three basic human psychological needs. Those are autonomy, which means being the captain of my own ship. I'm sorry. Um, Relatedness, which means needing to have deep and satisfying bonds with other people, and competence, which means having to feel like I'm good at something, like I'm making progress towards important goals. So if as a leader I can help the people that I'm leading to meet those goals, they will essentially run through walls for me. And it's incredibly simple. And I think I would say that there's a huge difference between something being simple and something being easy. Um, Simple means that it's not hard to understand. Easy means that it's not hard to do. Being a leader is simple. It's not easy. If it was easy, a lot more people would do it. Um, but it takes a lot of work because you have to get to know your people. You have to get to know what really drives them. What are they into? What are they about? Um, what's important to them, and help them to reach the goals that they've set for themselves. And if you can do that, they will follow you. So I really appreciate what you said, Michael, in terms of a good leader is not an elitist. A good leader is just another member of the group. And I say, look, my life is about me, but it's also about us. It's also about what I can do for you. It's also about how can I help to make your life better and easier and more satisfying. And if I can do that, people are going to follow me. If I'm an elitist where it's clear that I really care mostly about me and about my needs in my life, people are not going to want to follow me. They're going to say, okay, this person doesn't really care. And if he's not invested in me, why should I be invested in him?
I really appreciate the distinction you make between simple and easy. It's one that I frequently make throughout the
Hmm.
years in relation to myself and my own intellectual and moral development, and when
Yeah.
friends ask me for advice or we're talking, like if I have a friend and he's having family dynamic problems
Hmm.
and problem with friends where people maybe are taking advantage of him, the solution is simple. Either cut such people off or at the very least stop putting in more effort than they
Hmm.
are. But when you're a human being that wants to wants to have connections to your broader family and wants to have friends and doesn't want to be alone, it's not an easy thing to do. So the
Yeah.
solution is simple, but implementation is not an easy task. And it's like that with an abundance of
Yeah.
things. Losing weight is simple. Stop
Mm,
eating so much, eat healthy, get exercise. But that's easier said than done when that chocolate cake is on the
of
table.
course.
You know what I
Of
mean?
course.
Now, you also referenced intrinsic motivation. And
Hmm.
that's something that intrigues me. What do you mean by intrinsic motivation?
Well, this is also going back to DC and Ryan, as well as to my good friend Alan Waterman, who he and I have been doing research on this for almost 30 years. And essentially, intrinsic motivation means that I'm doing something because I want to. I'm doing something because it moves me, it interests me, it's what I'm really, really passionate about. And I would do it if I wasn't getting paid. I would do it if there was no outside reward, I would still do it because I love doing it. Extrinsic motivation means I have to get paid, I have to get some sort of outside reward, I have to get someone saying to me, hey, that's a really, really good job, man. But if I'm intrinsically motivated, I'm going to do it for me. I'm going to do it because I enjoy it, because it's really, really meaningful to me. And similarly, there's the idea of flow, which comes out of books written by, and I don't expect anybody to be able to spell this name.
Miss Mahaly or
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, Sally. I don't know how to pronounce it either.
I think it's actually Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, but I
I
could
believe you're
be
correct.
I could be 100% wrong because I don't speak any, I think it was Hungarian, but essentially what he was saying is that if you're in a state of flow, you get so absorbed in what you're doing that you don't really worry about how well you're doing it, and you lose track of time, and you forget about other things, and you get so incredibly engrossed that hearing somebody call your name, hearing your dog bark will literally startle you. So intrinsic motivation involves flow. It doesn't have to involve it all the time, but the idea is that I'm doing something because I really want to. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. I really love my work to the point where I very often work on Saturdays. I don't have to. I don't get paid to do that. But I love what I do, and it brings me a lot of satisfaction and joy and meaning. So, and even after I get into my 60s and 70s and I retire, I'm still going to be working because I like doing it. There are obviously some aspects of my job, like sitting in meetings, that I'm going to stop doing. But I will continue to write. I will continue to teach. I will continue to work with students because I really love it. So if you can get people that you're leading to want to do things with you, to want to do it, even if there's no immediate reward, just because they love it, that's a good leader. And again, simple, not easy. And one of the ways that I do it in in the lab that I run is that I model that for the people that I work with, in that I make it very clear that I love what I do and I'm passionate about it, and I invite them to be part of that. I think that, and I don't know if this is something that you also want to get to, and I'm sorry if I'm actually jumping the gun here,
Happens all the
um,
time. Don't worry
but
about it.
but one of the traps that leaders can get into is what I call the insufficiency trap, which is this idea of there just isn't enough. And so if I have something that is mine, it's my idea, it's my data, it's it's my project. I need to hold on to it. I need to guard it closely, and I can't let anybody else have it, because if I do that, I won't have anything that's mine. Um, and in reality, nothing could be further from the truth, because there's always more where that came from, and the best leaders know that. Um, did you freeze up?
You froze up, but I can still hear you. Don't worry about it.
Okay,
You're
good,
back. You're back.
good. I was afraid that um, we were lost there, but there's always more where that came from, and there's always more ideas. And if you share something with somebody else, as opposed to there being less for you, there's actually more for both people. Um, and I get so much personal satisfaction out of seeing other people succeed and knowing that I had a hand in that. That if I were to try to say, no, no, this is mine, I have to keep it for myself, I would be losing so much incredible joy. So I think that the best leaders really get joy out of seeing their people, in quotes, succeed and do well.
So, if intrinsic motivation means doing something because I want to do it regardless of the reward I get, wouldn't an
Mm-hmm.
ideal situation be to do something that I'm intrinsically motivated to do and get paid for it? Like your job, for
Yeah,
instance, you said you like to
yeah,
do it even when you don't get paid, but you're also getting paid to do it. And
indeed.
that seems like the
Yes,
ideal to me.
yes, yes.
How would you describe a controlling leader or a controlling boss, and why is this leadership style ineffective?
Okay, so there's actually two kinds of controlling leadership. There's what's called um, the actually I'm sort of blocking on the name that is used for it, but it's this idea of, if you think about the coach who who rides the players really, really hard and just yells at them and screams at them and calls them names, but in reality, he's trying to get the best out of them. There's a difference between that and the kind of control that where I'm essentially playing a mind game with you, and I'm essentially trying to manipulate you, and I'm actually hurting you in the process of trying to meet my own needs. Now I would argue that both of those sorts of leadership styles have their issues. But if you look in the military, for example, I don't think that you'll find any drill sergeants who are looking to inspire their people to be intrinsically motivated. No, this is a team where everybody has to be on the same page. There is a well-defined endpoint, and everyone has to buy into it. So this idea of let's help everybody to meet their own goals works great most of the time. In some situations, like in the military, like on a sports team, you may have to have more of this sort of what's called goal-oriented controlling. That's actually the word I was thinking of. Style where I'm going to ride you really, really hard because I need to get the best out of you, so that the whole group can do better. But I think the controlling leadership that you have in mind is this idea where I'm undermining my own people. I am playing games with them. I am making sure that everybody knows that I'm the boss. And that doesn't work because people see through it. Because people see, well, why should I try hard when I don't get anything out? When every time I go to work, I just feel worse. When it's really clear that this person doesn't care about me. This person only cares about themselves. Why should I be invested? So it's a bit of a paradox where if you really want to get the best out of your people, you need to invest in them and have a shared set of goals that everyone buys into. And if you try to control what other people are doing, that will absolutely fall on its face. I mean, I can remember I worked with a group about 25 years ago, who was the leadership was exactly like what you're saying, where the people in charge were they were not nice. They were essentially playing games with people, and they had everybody absolutely terrified of them. And as a result, what you saw was that the morale was low. There was a lot of turnover. People were always coming and going, and people were not really into their work. A lot of people were seriously depressed in the office, and you could see that there was just a lot of problems. Whereas if you have an autonomy supportive leader who is really helping other people to invest, people are really, really charged up, and they're really excited to come to work, and they're excited to be in the group. And yeah, it takes a lot of effort, and there are some people who will still not buy in. But in my experience, the majority of people react very, very well to that style.
Would it be right to say, because I certainly think it is, that whether it be a parent, teacher,
Mhm.
coach, boss, whatever, that just telling somebody, do it because I said so, isn't effective? People want to know why they're doing something. They
Mhm.
want their minds engaged in whatever it
Exactly.
is they're doing. So, when I would talk to my girlfriend's son, I would explain to him, okay, this is why I want you to do it, not just don't do it, because then he just wants to do it anyway.
Yep.
So would that be accurate?
Yes. 1,000%. I mean, I can tell you when I was growing up, my mom would always ask me to do something. And I would say, why? And the answer was always because I said so. And I would always say, but that's not a reason. And obviously she wouldn't want to hear that, and so when I was raising our kids who are now in college, I would never say that. I would always say, I want you to do this because I think it's important for you to go to bed now because I want you to have enough rest so that in the morning you can be in school and pay attention and not be falling asleep, or it's really important for you to have this apple because it's really, really healthy for you, or the ice cream you can have tomorrow. It's a little bit late, and if you have it now, it's going to be really, really hard for you to go to bed. So I find that when you give people reasons and explanations that they can understand well, they like that and they buy into it. And if people understand why they're being asked to do something, they're much more likely to do it. And so being asked a question is not a sign of disrespect. It's a sign of interest. It's a sign of saying, yeah, I'll do this. I want to know why you're asking me to do it.
So, what are the best ways to inspire intrinsic motivation? In other words, what are the principles of effective leadership? Not all of them. I know you can't name every single one, but I mean some of the main ones.
That's great. I actually have a sheet on my other screen that I'm looking at that I actually sent you yesterday, so you have it too. But I'm going to go over a few things.
Okay.
First of all, I would say the number one is honesty and authenticity. My dad always said, say what you mean and mean what you say, so that people are not wondering what your real objective is when you say something because they already know it's obvious, and people know that when I say something there isn't anything behind it. um, I'm saying exactly what I mean, and so people really appreciate that. They don't have to read into it. They don't have to wonder if I have some sort of an ulterior motive that they have to try to find out. I would say being humble is huge. Um, and in a lot of cases, and something that I say a lot, there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance, where if you're really confident in yourself, you don't have to brag because people see that you're good. People can watch you and say, hey, he's really good at what he does. He doesn't have to say it. It's obvious. Arrogance is when you have to start saying, hey, look at me, look at how awesome I am. And in the end, that's a sign of insecurity. And people see right through that. And if you're really confident and you know that you're good at what you do, then you're free to give away credit to other people. And you're free to say, hey, that's a really awesome job that you did. Um, and you're free to even give away things that are your idea to other people because it would help them more than it would help you. And Ronald Reagan had a saying that it is really surprising what you can get done if you really don't care who gets the credit. Um, I'm really a major fan of that idea, where I don't care who gets the credit. I don't need it. As long as the work gets done, that's what I care about. Because in the end, I'm the leader of the group. And so if the work gets done and the work is good, I'm probably going to get some of the credit anyway, but I would rather give it away to another person so that they can feel better, they can make some progress, and they can move forward in their own life, which in the end is going to help me too. I would say that being fully transparent and saying, I have nothing to hide from you. I'm asking you to do this because it's obvious why. Um, we're a team. I don't have anything to hide from you. Um, I have to follow my own rules. Um, there was a time when one of my kids was really, really wanting to lose weight. And so all four of us went on the same diet, and we all did it for 6 weeks. And it was actually really, really helpful for all of us. But it was but her diet would have been seriously undermined if the rest of us had been eating cookies and sweets and cakes and whatever else. We followed the rules too, so that she could say, hey, this is really, really working because everyone's buying into it, and we don't even have the sweets in the house. Um, I would say that you have to praise often, and praise between 8 and 10 times for every time that you criticize. And when you criticize, it should be gentle, it should be indirect, and there should be a very clear idea for how the issue can be fixed. And you should focus on the behavior and not the person. So if I'm criticizing you because you did something that was wrong, my first assumption, hopefully, if it's not the if it isn't a pattern, is that it was an honest mistake. So let's sort of work through how that happened, work through what you were thinking, and work through how we can avoid it happening again. If it becomes a pattern and it's obvious that either you don't care or you're trying to hurt the group, then we need to sort of revisit what your goals are, and if you are a good fit for the group. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes you may have to say to somebody, this may not be the right fit for you. I've had to say that very occasionally, probably 2 or 3 times in the 30 years that I've been doing this, that I've actually had to say to somebody, this may not be the right fit for you. Um, I find also the best leaders spend more time listening and less time talking. And that is so hard to do. Okay. It's so hard to shut up and listen, because all of us have a million things that we want to say. And so I had to train myself over years to use my ears more and my mouth less, because I already know what I think. I already know what's important to me. I'm more interested in what's important to you. And if I have a group of 8 or 9 or 10 people that I'm working with, who has more wisdom and knowledge? Me, the one person, or all of them? And I think the answer is obvious, and it isn't me. And it doesn't matter how old I am or how smart I am or how long I've been doing this. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know about life. There's a lot of things that have not happened to me that I have not experienced, and I would like to hear from other people, because I think that when you feel like you know everything and you're in charge and everybody has to listen to you, you're making an assumption that you don't have anything more that you have to learn about whatever it is that you're doing, and that is almost always entirely false. I mean, I'm surprised at how little I know, and sometimes I learn stuff from people that are half my age, and I'm like, how did I not know that? And it's like, because that's just how life works. Um, and I feel like sometimes if something goes wrong, and especially if you see several people on a team that are making the same mistake, one assumption to ask yourself is it something I'm doing? Is it something I'm doing Am I not being entirely clear about what I want? Am I sending the wrong message? Is it something that I'm doing wrong? And I find sometimes also that when you blame yourself for things, other people are like, oh, wow, no, maybe it really isn't his fault. Maybe it's actually my fault.
Right. And people respect someone that takes responsibility rather than
Bingo.
points the
Yep.
finger and takes the blame.
Yep.
So
Yep.
from what I'm hearing, a good leader
Hmm.
is honest, authentic, has
Hmm.
integrity,
Hmm.
exudes confidence but not arrogance,
Hmm.
uses praise more than criticism, is a good listener.
Yep.
Why are these characteristics of leadership effective? What is the mechanism or the mechanisms by which that style of leadership translates into getting people to follow?
Because it helps people to be the best possible versions of themselves, because it allows other people to be authentic. It allows other people to be who they are. It, I mean, I'll use an expression that my dad used when I was growing up. He always told me, I was always one step ahead of you because I wanted to see you reach up for more. And I did. And I have spent the last probably 30 years saying, hey, I'm so grateful to you that you did that for me. And I did the same thing with my kids, and I do the same thing with other people that I'm leading, because when you encourage people to be their best, when you tell other people, hey, I want to hear what you have to say, um, I, I want to know what you think, it makes people feel important. It makes people feel valuable. And when people feel important, when they feel valuable, when they feel like, hey, I really have something important that I can contribute, they want to rise up and be the best possible version of themselves. And when you listen to people and you really listen, not just but when you really listen and you actively try to repeat back what they're saying so that you understand it. And if you have a question, you're like, hey, I think I hear what you're saying, but can you help me clarify? Do you mean this or that? And people just are incredibly drawn in by that, and they want to be. And it it helps people to be intrinsically motivated. It helps people to buy in and say, "Hey, I love doing this. I want to do this." And I find sometimes that students that I work with are are working at night. They're working on the weekend to get the work done that we've actually talked about, because I've made it very clear that it's theirs. And I've probably supervised between 15 and 20 graduate students in my life. I've never once assigned anybody a project. I've said, what is it that you want to do? Because one thing that Al Waterman and I found in 3 or 4 of our studies is that for something to be intrinsically motivating, for something to put you in flow, for something to be important to you, it has to be experienced as a choice. So you have to experience that you chose to do this, that you're doing it because you want to. If I assign you something to do for your master's thesis or for your dissertation, I've immediately set you up to fail, because now you're doing something that you really don't want to do. You're doing it for me. I don't want you to do it for me. I want you to do it for you. Um, and I want you to really have this sense that there isn't really a me, there isn't really a you, there's an us. Um, and that you and I are on the same team, we have the same goals. And this is part of what all of these styles of leadership bring out, is that they have this idea of, I'm ahead of you, but I'm not above you. Um, I may be the leader because I'm older than you and I have more experience, but I'm not better than you. I'm not smarter. Um, there isn't anything about me that you can't be at some point in your life. And I say this to everybody I work with. At some point, every one of you is going to be sitting here where I am right now. Uh, and the only reason you're not is because I'm in my 50s and you're not. And at some point, you will be. So,
There's uh, so much in what you just said.
mhm,
First of all, if people don't choose things, but they're
mhm,
compelled to do them, they end up
mhm,
not liking it. Even if it's something
exactly.
that would be good for them, it's
Hmm.
better if the person chooses it themselves.
Hmm.
And it seems like in our culture, people have a very hard time doing things for themselves. I find myself
Yes.
constantly getting into these discussions with friends who want to do
Hmm.
things for me. And I'm just like, do for yourself. And if
Yeah.
you don't want to do something for me, don't do it. And I can't stand like when somebody wants to do something for me because they feel bad or they feel guilty.
Yeah.
Because that's just, for one thing, it's a recipe for resentment to when
Yes.
people do things that they don't want to do. And for two, if I really care about someone and they're my friend, I want them to do good for them. I don't want
Yeah.
them, living for me or
Hmm.
sacrificing
Hmm.
themselves for me. I want them to do for themselves. But it's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do. They
Yeah.
almost feel
Yeah.
bad if they're just doing for themselves.
Hmm. I would agree with that. And I think sometimes we need to give other people permission. Um, and I'll tell you, I've had so many times with with some friends or my kids or my students or anybody else would like they're like, no, 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 I want to do something to help you. I'm like, the biggest thing that you can do to help me is to find something that you really, really want to do. Because again, there isn't a you and there isn't a me there's an us that includes all of us. And if we're on a team, what you're doing for you, you're also doing for me. Um, and and so I think part of it, and this may not work so well with friends or partners, it works more at work or on a team. You say, look, what's important here is not any one person, it's the whole group. And I, the leader, am just another member of the group. And I have one vote. Everybody else also has one vote. And if I'm working in my lab and we have to make a decision as to what we want to do, I always say, what do all of you think? And I've got my one vote. Everybody else has their vote, and we can spend as much time working through it as we need to until we understand the issues. So another thing that's important about being a good leader is having patience, which is something I was never good at, by the way, when I was younger. And being a parent has helped me to learn how to be patient because sometimes ideas take time to think through. Sometimes it takes time to work through a group of people and say, what do we want to do? And so we have to work through a whole bunch of ideas to decide what it is that we want to do. And maybe the first idea that we had isn't the best one. And maybe the idea that I had coming in was not the best one. Um, and so I find that when we make decisions as a group, um, generally speaking, the more heads that are involved, the better, as long as everyone's playing on the same team. And I have had some people, it's pretty occasional, not many, maybe 3 or 4 people probably in 30 years who have been like this, but who are selfish and who are like, no, no, me. And you have to try to work with those people. And if you can't, because for some people, it's a personality trait. And it's hard to get somebody to actually change their base personality.
Sure.
And sometimes someone just isn't a good fit. And my dad has an expression. He has a lot of really, really awesome expressions. One of them is that if you've actually banged your head against the wall for long enough, it feels really, really good when you stop. So if you have tried to work with somebody for a long time and you just can't, um, you might realize, okay, I don't work well with this person. And as a good leader, you may realize I can't lead this person. Um, that's one of the things you have to be able to realize as a leader, is that there are some people that are just simply not a good fit for you for whatever reason. It could be personality, it could be issues, it could be anything. But you can't lead everyone.
No,
Um,
no, you cannot. Not everybody's going to follow, no matter how good you are.
right, right.
So, is there anything you think that we didn't cover that we should have, or I didn't ask that I should have? Anything you want to add to the discussion before we wrap up?
Just a couple of things. I want to talk a little bit about symptoms of bad leadership.
Okay.
It's just like when you have a cold, you can see what the symptoms are. You're you, you don't feel well. You're coughing and sneezing. You have the itchy throat, and your nose is red, etc. So, what are the symptoms of an organization that has poor leadership? Um, when you have a lot of when you see a group that has a lot that has a lot of turnover, people are constantly coming and going, that is an immediate symptom that there's an issue in the organization, that people are not happy. When you see people who are not invested, you see that the morale is low. You see that people are not performing well. I'll give you an example. I have been a long suffering fan of the Miami Dolphins for about 40 years. And I have seen that team fall on its face essentially every single year since sometime in the 90s. And I've always wondered, why is it that no matter who's coaching and who's playing, you always get the same results and they're always disappointing? Why is it that you can sign a guy who was great on another team, he comes to the Dolphins and he stinks, and then he leaves and goes somewhere else and he's awesome again? And I'm like, why is that? Is there something in the water? Is the team cursed? It's like, no. The When I started learning more about the psychology of leadership, I was like, this is the issue. The issue is in the ownership. It's in the front office. It's that you hire the coach, but then you're still undermining his authority. There's just a lot of dysfunction in the organization that is leading to the product that you're seeing on the field. And so the issue is not necessarily the players, because even when you have different players on the field, you're seeing essentially the same results. And you see other teams that are run really, really well. And those are the teams that win. Um, and so it really gives you a sense that yes, it's the players, but it's also the leadership in the organization that is helping them to buy in. Because athletes and anybody else, they're people. And if they don't like the leadership, they're going to tune out. They're going to not work as hard and not try as hard, and they're going to play as an individual as opposed to on a team. And with any team, if you have people acting as individuals, you are done. So I would say that the best thing you can do as a leader is to model yourself as a member of the team. And so I think that's basically everything I wanted to cover. So
Okay. Well, thank you very much. A very,
sure.
very good discussion here.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? Like I found you, I think, in your blog on Psychology Today. Can they find you anywhere else?
Um, I don't know why Psychology Today has not updated it, but I actually left Miami about 3.5 years ago. I've been in Austin, Texas. I'm at the University
Oh,
of
so I
Texas
got
in
it wrong
Austin.
at the beginning when I said you were at Miami. Okay, sorry.
Um, it's not your fault. I've asked uh, the folks at Psych Today to update it, and they haven't. But um, I am in the College of Education at UT Austin. I have a website. I have an email address. People are more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm on my email more often than I think my wife would actually like me to be on email. Um, um, Usually, if I would say, usually if there's a half marathon around, you can probably find me out there running it. Um, or um, I think, unfortunately, I still actually follow the Dolphins. So if there's a game on, you can probably find me watching it.
Thank you very much. For
My
now, this is the
pleasure.
Rational Egoist signing out. I'm Michael Liebowitz. Till next time.